Okay folks, now it's a few hours later and I'm finally getting around to the soil test. I actually considered just not doing it, but I went and dug up out of my kitchen and some really old vinegar and some really old baking soda, and just to prove that they're actually still viable, I'm going to put a little baking soda in here. Oops, wow, it came out in a huge clump. Maybe if I can get part of that clump out and back into the let me try and pour some of the baking soda back in the box. It's just way too much. So I know if this works, it's a pretty energetic reaction. So, alright. I'd show you the baking soda, but it's white and so is the cup. So we've got the vinegar, which is not white, which the tests I've seen are supposed to use white vinegar, but all I have is apple cider. Still, still smells like vinegar. So let's see what happens here. There we go. That's a reaction. So now, the idea is I prepared the soil by putting a little bit of water in there. It's drinking water. It's supposed to be distilled, but I figure that's better than tap water. Or at least I hope it's better than tap water. Took that and just kind of kept dropping little bits of soil in there and mixing it until it was kind of mud consistency. Maybe a little bit thinner than peanut butter. So now I'm going to try and pour just a little bit of apple cider vinegar in here. And see if we get fizzing. I don't see any fizzing. I'm going to keep filling it. Nothing. I still see bubbles in the other cup. I'm going to shake that up a little bit here. I can get that reaction going again. So let me try and shake this up a little bit. I get no reaction from that. So the other thing is the baking soda. There's that big clump again. That's what I get for putting it back in the box. Oh, now it decides to fall apart. So I'm just going to do it by hand. And it looks kind of foamy. It's really just kind of mixing in. So anyway, it's not looking like much. Let me get rid of the rest of this baking soda. Alright, and we'll try and shake this up a bit. And I see no signs of foaming there. We'll give it a moment. I really don't see anything there. If I shake up the other one, I can still get somewhat of a reaction out of it. Not nearly like before, but I don't see any foaming on either side, so that pretty much means my soil is neutral, even though I actually added some coffee grounds to it. So I'm going to go back to the drawing board and see what I need to do to make it acidic without killing things. Actually, what I just did was I decided to pour some of the soil with vinegar into the soil with baking soda, and I got a reaction. I think that's what it's supposed to look like with the soil in there. There, you see that bubble pop. So, pretty much I'm at neutral. Now I need to figure out what to do to make it more acidic for the strawberries. Okay folks, I did a little bit more research, and you know, it should be noted that as much as we all love YouTube, and let's face it, you're watching right now, sometimes the information you get there can be conflicting, and sometimes people just don't know what they're talking about. I don't pretend to be a master here, but one of the things I saw that was kind of an interesting note was that tap water can tend to be acidic. Now that may depend on your region, but the thought occurred to me, if I'm trying to make my soil a little bit more acidic for the strawberries, maybe I should run the same test on just tap water. So that's what I've done, is I've set up these 3 cups now with just plain tap water. One other thing I should say is that when I water my plants, I tend to water directly from the tap, just with a hose and a sprinkler nozzle and what have you. I know that I can actually pour the water into a container and let it sit for a couple hours, and the chlorine or any chemicals are supposed to kind of evaporate off. But sometimes I just don't have the time to sit and wait for all of that. So I just wanted to see what's going to happen. If I try this same experiment with regular tap water that has not been evaporating for very long. So we'll go with the vinegar first. Now it occurs to me you're probably not going to see much at this angle. Maybe I'll put like an equal portion of vinegar in there. And I also realize that my vinegar and my baking soda are old, but they did, when I tested them earlier and put them together, they did have the expected reaction. So that's the vinegar. I'm trying to work on the baking soda without making a huge mess here and without having huge clumps. So I think this is probably about an equal amount. We'll try the baking soda. And it's really hard to see. I don't see it fizzing up. But again, just to prove that a reaction is possible, we'll do this again in the water. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay. I just spilled a little bit of my baking soda into the one with the vinegar. But I'm going to put baking soda in the water. That's 2 tests with the baking soda. But the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to add some vinegar now to this 3rd one. And you can see I got a reaction. And then once more, to prove that things can work, I'm going to take this water. I'm actually going to kind of shake it up a little bit, which is another thing to consider. Well, looking at it, I don't really see any reaction there, but now it's mixed a little better with the water, so we'll combine them. And I just made a mess of the table. That'll dry up eventually. So apparently the baking soda and the vinegar are okay. The water's not all that acidic. So I'm back to the drawing board. Or I'm just going to go ahead and plant these strawberries without worrying about the acid. Actually, it occurred to me just as I was finishing that up that there's one more experiment I can do. And that is take the coffee grounds that I was planning on using, put them directly in. Need a little bit more. Now these are used coffee grounds that have been drying for quite a while. I just dumped them out from the coffee filter into a bucket, and they sat for months. I, was planning on doing something but never got to it. So let's try this one more time. We'll put in the vinegar. No reaction. We can try the baking soda, although both the components are dry. I don't think that's going to amount to much. I'm going to try each one. I can try shaking them up a little. No reaction on the vinegar. Really kind of hard to mix the two when they're dry. And the other option I had was to try and mix them in the 3rd cup, but actually now I think that doesn't even really make sense, because all I got to do is take the one with the vinegar and move that out of the way. Take the one with the baking soda and mix the two. And there we have a messy reaction. So there you go. A number of experiments tried to figure out pHs and how reliable in part the vinegar and baking soda option is. It seems like vinegar and baking soda both have some positives to them. And now, of course, that's empty, it's going to blow away. There we go, we'll put that in there. So no real conclusions drawn, except that the soil and the water seem to be pH neutral, and then simply mixing vinegar and baking soda together still works. So that's it for the experiments. I need to make a decision on whether I'm going to plant those strawberries without trying to make the soil more acidic. Maybe I'll come back to this a little bit later and figure out a way to make the soil acidic after the plants are in.